Welcome to the 10-minute math mini course on spatial reasoning. We are your hosts, Jan
and Colleen,
two math-loving educators on a mission to help parents use normal everyday routines such as bedtime, playtime, or mealtime as opportunities to build their children's number sense so that their children can find the joy, wonder, and beauty of mathematics. In this first 10-minute video, we will talk about the early math research. Now let's get started.
Parents, as their child's first teacher, want their child to grow up to be competent in math. They don't want their child to hate math or have anxiety about doing math. In other words, parents want their child to have number sense. 4 components of number sense, according to Van de Waal, include spatial reasoning, 1 and 2, more and less, benchmarks of 5 and 10, and part whole. We have designed 4 separate mini courses to explain each of these components and give you the tools to foster growth. This is the beginning of the first spatial course on spatial reasoning.
Your first big question is probably, what is spatial reasoning? Well, spatial reasoning is mentioned in the new Wisconsin math standards and has to do with the child's ability to recognize a set of objects in a pattern and tell how many without counting. Lots of games involve dice and will help your child with the development of spatial reasoning.
Using dice is a great way to support young children to see dot patterns and instantly know how many are in a group without counting.
We know that at first children learn to read, but by 4th grade, children read to learn, which means that children want to learn social studies. They need to be able to read about social studies. This has put a big emphasis on reading achievement by grade 3. And while it is critical, research shows that the development of mathematics skills early on may be an even greater predictor of later school success. So early knowledge of math not only predicts later success in math, but also predicts later reading achievement even better than early reading skills.
The National Council of Teachers of Mathematics, commonly referred to as the NCTM, recommends that spatial reasoning should be a large focus of elementary school, starting with pre-kindergarten. This recommendation speaks to the need of a child to have practice in this area.
First, we want to mention that research has proven that spatial reasoning or thinking can be improved through an assortment of activities across all age groups. We will give you a variety of activities that you can try with your own child.
As your child's first teacher, you can make a huge difference in your child's spatial reasoning. In this video, we will introduce you to the 12 levels of learning for spatial reasoning, and then dig deeper into each level. Once you understand the levels, you can identify the level of your own child, and then we will provide you with activities to implement during your daily routines to help you move your child's learning forward.
We know that children go through levels of learning as they naturally develop their spatial reasoning. Here is a list of the first 7 levels.
Here is a list of the levels 8 through 12. We will explain each of these levels in more detail. Identifying which level your child is currently at in their spatial reasoning will help you to select the right activities to move your child's learning forward. You can spend some time observing your child and rather playing with your child for the identification process. Think about your own child as we explain these levels.
Level 1 starts from birth, when children have a sense of 1 and 2 and possibly 3 without knowing at all about numbers. Examples when observing a child include follows the path of a moving object with their eyes, shows interest in playing with 1 or 2 objects, and enjoys seeing a large group of toys at once.
Level 2 is when children connect small quantities to number words. Usually after the child's first birthday, the numbers of 1 and 2 are often learned along with terms such as more and less. It takes longer for children to understand that all groups labeled with the same number word have the same amount. Examples when observing your child are recognizes and matches 1 or 2 objects in different sets, but may not say the number of objects. May think 2 means any number more than 1.
Level 3 is when children can make a small collection of 1 and 2 and possibly 3 with the same number as another collection. Examples when observing a child include creates an identical set of objects up to 3, gives 1 toy to another person when asked, or relies on a matching strategy to make a small collection.
Level 4 is when children can name groups of 1, 2, and 3 with increasing accuracy. This typically happens when the child are about 3 years old, but can take another 4 to 6 months. Children are also able to recognize small groups without relying on a model or a matching strategy. Examples when observing a child include names the number of dogs in a group up to 3. Child says 2 shoes when shown a pair of shoes. Correctly says the number of objects when one is in each hand.
Level 5 is when children instantly recognize collections up to 4 when shown briefly and names the number of items. Examples when observing a child at this level includes knows dots in triangular shape is exactly 3 dots, instantly recognizes 3 objects in a pattern, or knows there are 4 objects in a group when viewed briefly.
Level 6 is when children recognize collections up to 5 without counting and can say the number of items. Examples when observing a child include instantly knows and names a pattern for 5 dots on a die, uses spatial and numeric structures from past experiences, and instantly recognizes and verbally names up to 5 objects in a set.
Level 7 is when children recognize collections up to 5 without counting when shown only briefly. Children understand that the whole is the result of seeing smaller quantities that make up the whole. Examples when observing a child include rolls a 5 on 2 dice and knows it is 5 with a 2 and a 3, or can explain how they know they have a 5 when rolling a 2 and 3 on a pair of dice.
Level 8 is when children can name the amount of objects in a collection for 6 and 7 when only shown briefly. Examples when observing a child include rolls 2 dice and knows there are 7 dots with a 5 and a 2, and explains how they know they see 7 dots when rolling a 5 and a 2 on a pair of dice.
Level 9 is when children can name the amount of objects in a collection for all numbers 2 to 10. Children may have known that 5 and 5 made 10 earlier, but this level is reached when most all combinations of all numbers up to 10 are recognized. Children at this level also use 10 frames to recognize larger quantities. Examples when observing a child includes rolls 2 dice and knows there are 10 dots with a 6 and a 4, or explains how they know they see 10 dots when rolling a 7 and a 3 on a pair of dice.
Level 10 is when children can name the amount of objects in a collection up to 20 when shown briefly by seeing the parts and quickly knowing the whole. Children may have known that 10 and 10 make 20 earlier, but this level is reached when most all combinations of numbers from 1 to 10 are recognized. Examples when observing a child include knows 2 groups of 10 objects is 20, instantly recognizes 12 when sees a filled 10 frame and 2 more, but difficulty with a 7 on one 10 frame and an 8 on another.
Level 11 is when children can name the amount of objects in a collection when shown briefly by using groups, skip counting, and place value numbers of 1 and 10. Examples when observing a child include knows that 1 group of 10 is the same as 10 groups of 1, or figures out larger numbers by looking at groups of 10, 5, or 2, and counts up by those groups, such as 10, 20, 30, 32, 34, to get an answer of 34.
Level 12 builds on the previous level when children are able to see our base 10 system and groups of equal size in multiplicative thinking. Children are able to identify the quantity of tens they see. Examples when observing a child include knows how to combine different size groups to figure out a total, and figures out the sum of 4 dice and explains their thinking process.
So now that you've seen all 12 levels of learning for spatial reasoning, here are your step-by-step directions for moving forward. Use the information in this video to identify your child's level of understanding in step 1, and you will hear more about the activity cards in an upcoming video.
Head over to the next video to learn more about the routines you can add to your child's day. And thanks for making math fun.